Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a figure who, honestly, casts one of the longest, darkest shadows over the 20th century, Adolf Hitler.
It's a heavy subject.
It really is. And we're not here just to run through dates and names you already know. The goal really is to get under the hood.
Exactly. We want to look at how he operated, his political methods, how he managed to consolidate such absolute power.
And, crucially, the sheer scale of the horror unleashed under his command. We're digging into the sources to understand the mechanics of it all.
Right, moving beyond just the timeline to, the political science of it almost. How does someone like that rise? How did he dismantle a republic from within? It's about understanding the process, not just the outcome.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. The sources place his birth in Austria-Hungary, Braunau am in 1889.
Yeah, and interestingly, it picks up that distinctive Lower Bavarian dialect early on.
The sources also highlight this intense conflict with his father, LOS.
Oh, absolutely. Classic clash. Aloy, the civil servant, wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. Dutiful, stable.
While young Adolf had his heart set on being an artist.
An artist, yes. That dream versus duty thing seems pretty central to his early resentment, wouldn't you say?
It seems to set a pattern. Then come the Vienna years, 1907 to 1913. His mother passes away, and he heads to the big city.
Right, and this is where he faces that double rejection from the Academy of Fine Arts. Big blow.
Twice he tries, twice he fails.
And the fallout isn't just, bruised ego, it's real hardship.
Yeah, the sources talk about him living in homeless shelters, men's hostels.
Taking a pretty meager living selling these small watercolor paintings of Vienna landmarks. It's a bohemian existence, but not the romantic kind. More desperate.
But even then, amidst the poverty, he's developing these other passions. Architecture, music.
Yes, especially music. Richard Wagner becomes a huge obsession. Apparently saw Lohengrin maybe 10 times.
Wow.
But Vienna wasn't just about high culture. It was also, a hotbed of really nasty politics.
You mean the racist and anti-Semitic ideas that were swirling around?
Exactly. Vienna at that time was swimming in it. Populist figures, pamphlets, he was soaking all that in. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment his ideology fully formed, but those Vienna years were clearly fertile ground.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. World War I becomes the next major chapter. He moves to Munich first.
Correct. Then in 1914, when war breaks out, he voluntarily enlists in the Bavarian army.
And served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front. The sources say he called it the greatest of all experiences.
He seemed to thrive on it, and he wasn't just a number. He was decorated for bravery.
The Iron Cross, second class, and then first class.
Which was quite unusual for his rank, Lance Corporal. And it's a detail worth noting that the recommendation for that first-class medal actually came from his superior officer, Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann, who was Jewish.
Despite later being temporarily blinded by a mustard gas attack near the end of the war.
His commitment to the war effort, to Germany's cause, seems total.
So imagine building your whole sense of purpose around this massive conflict, and then Germany surrenders. What does that do to him?
Psychologically, it seems to break something, or maybe forge something new and dangerous. The defeat was completely unacceptable to him.
And this leads him to cling to the Dos legend, the stab-in-the-back myth.
Fanatically, he couldn't accept military defeat. In his mind, Germany was betrayed.
By whom?
Civilian politicians back home, Marxists, and crucially, Jews. That narrative, that betrayal myth, becomes the absolute core of his political drive from then on.
So that post-war disillusionment is his gateway into politics?
Pretty much. He stays in the army for a bit after the war, and in 1919 he gets this assignment.
As an intelligence agent?
Yeah,
basically to spy on this small radical group called the German Workers' Party, the DAP.
He joins them, number 555, but it doesn't stay surveillance for long.
Not at all. He finds his voice there. His talent wasn't in organizing initially, it was in speaking.
No.
Raw, polemic energy.
The sources mentioned his rowdy speeches. What was he talking about? Raging against the Treaty of Versailles, attacking Marxists, communists, and relentlessly targeting Jews. He tapped into all that simmering resentment and anger in post-war Germany. He became known quickly.
And that notoriety eventually fuels his first big gamble. The beer hall putsch in 1923, trying to copy Mussolini.
Yeah, inspired by the March on Rome, but it was poorly planned, a total failure. It leads to his arrest for high treason.
Should have been game over, politically, but instead, he gets a relatively short sentence in Landsberg prison.
Just over a year, really, and it's during that time he dictates Mein Kampf.
Which is, it's an astonishingly revealing source, isn't it? It's the blueprint.
It's disturbingly candid. All the core ideas are there. The need for Lebensraum, living space in the East, pan-Germanism.
And that virulent, obsessive anti-Semitism, describing Jews as germs, international poisoners.
The sources are very clear. The book has an inherent genocidal thrust. It's not subtle.
And people bought it.
Massively. By 1933, it had sold 1 million copies. His ideas weren't fringe, they were finding a disturbingly large audience.
So after prison, he changes tactics. No more putschs.
He realizes he needs to use the system. He vows to gain power legally through elections. But there's a snag.
He wasn't actually a German citizen.
Nope. He'd renounced his Austrian citizenship back in 1925 and was technically stateless for years.
How do you fix that?
It took until 1932. A Nazi sympathizer who was an interior minister in the state of Brunswick basically arranged it, appointed him to a minor post which conferred citizenship. Just in time.
Just in time for what?
To run for higher office, and crucially, just as the Great Depression was absolutely devastating Germany.
The economic crisis. Millions unemployed.
And Hitler's offering scapegoats and simple, powerful promises: tear up Versailles, restore German pride, get people back to work.
And it worked. His party's support surged.
Which, combined with a lot of backroom dealing among conservative elites who thought they could control him,
Leads to January 30th, 1933. He's appointed chancellor.
initially heading a coalition government. The old guard thought they had him boxed in. They were tragically mistaken.
Because he didn't stage a violent overthrow. He used the law to kill democracy. Write that down. The Reichstag fire, February 33. How pivotal was that?
Absolutely pivotal. The fire happens, still debated who exactly set it, but Hitler immediately blames the communists.
And uses it as a pretext?
Precisely.
Wow.
To persuade President Hindenburg to sign the Reichstag fire decree. This decree basically suspended all fundamental civil rights, freedom of speech, assembly, press, privacy.
And allowed detention without trial. Indefinitely.
Overnight, Germany becomes a police state operating under emergency powers.
But that wasn't enough. Then came the Enabling Act in March 33. Why was that the final nail in the coffin for the Weimar Republic?
Because it made the emergency permanent, and crucially, it bypassed Parliament entirely.
How so?
The Enabling Act gave Hitler's cabinet the power to make laws without the Reichstag's approval for 4 years.
So the chancellor could just rule by decree.
Effectively, yes. The Constitution wasn't formally abolished, but it became meaningless. He could now legally enact any law he wanted. It turned the chancellorship into a de facto legal dictatorship.
Using the system to destroy the system. Chillingly effective.
And once he had that legal power, the physical consolidation followed. The Night of the Long Knives in 34.
Where he brutally purged rivals within his own party, particularly the SA leadership like Ernst Röhm, sending a clear message.
No dissent allowed. And then, just a couple months later, President Hindenburg dies,
And Hitler merges the offices of president and chancellor.
taking the title Führer und Reichskanzler, leader and Reich Chancellor. All power now resided in him. No checks, no balances left.
Let's talk about how he maintained that control. The Führer principle, the leader principle. It wasn't just a title, was it? It was a method of rule.
Absolutely. It sounds efficient, leader principle, but in practice, it was often chaotic. Deliberately so.
How do you mean?
Hitler intentionally gave his top deputies people like Goering, Himmler, Goebbels overlapping responsibilities and competing mandates.
So they'd fight amongst themselves.
Exactly. They were constantly jockeying for position, trying to win his favor, undercutting each other. It created incredible inefficiency and bureaucratic infighting.
But it ensured no one below him could ever build up enough power to challenge him.
Precisely. He remained the ultimate arbiter, the sole source of authority. Everyone was focused on pleasing the Führer and battling their rivals, not collaborating or questioning his decisions.
Okay, let's look at the Nazi state in action. Domestically, they achieved a remarkably fast economic recovery, didn't they? Unemployment dropped dramatically.
It did, from about 6 million down to under 1 million by 1936. It looked like an economic miracle. Massive government spending, primarily on rearmament. It was also funded partly by, well, printing money, and significantly by seizing assets.
Especially from Jewish citizens.
Yes. And infrastructure projects like the famous Autobahns were great propaganda, but also served military logistics. It was all geared towards war preparation.
Which brings us to foreign policy. The core goal always remained Lebensraum, right? Living space in the East.
That was the non-negotiable objective from Mein Kampf. Everything else served that.
So, breaking the Treaty of Versailles, expanding the army, remilitarizing the Rhineland, These were just steps along the way.
Absolutely. Testing the waters, building strength, and it's telling. The sources mention his reaction to the Munich Agreement in 1938.
Where Britain and France basically gave him the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia to appease him.
He got what he demanded, but he was apparently furious.
Furious, why?
Because, according to the sources, he felt cheated out of the war he wanted to fight then. He wasn't looking for peaceful gains. He actively sought conflict.
Which made war inevitable. September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland.
Following the secret pact with Stalin, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, to carve Poland up between them.
Did he expect Britain and France to declare war?
Sources suggest he was genuinely surprised, perhaps misled by his foreign minister, Ribbentrop. He might have thought they'd back down again.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
And once the war started, his personal control over the military just increased.
Dramatically. He'd already made himself supreme commander of the armed forces in 1938. Then, in December 1941, crucially, he dismissed the army commander-in-chief and took that role himself.
Right when the tide was starting to turn, especially on the Eastern Front.
Yes. And his leadership style as commander became increasingly rigid, divorced from reality, refusing tactical withdrawals.
Like at Stalingrad.
Stalingrad is the classic, tragic example. His absolute refusal to allow the Sixth Army to break out led to its annihilation. His belief in sheer willpower overriding military reality proved catastrophic.
And we absolutely had to talk about the Holocaust here. It wasn't separate from the war, was it?
No, absolutely not. The sources stress this. The war and the genocide were intertwined in his ideology. Lebensraum required clearing the East, and the Jews were framed as the ultimate enemy preventing German destiny. The war provided the cover and the means for mass murder.
He even predicted it, didn't he? That infamous speech in January 1939.
Yes, where he prophesied that if international finance Jewry started another world war, the result would be the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe. Chillingly premeditated.
And the planning became formalized later.
At the Wannsee Conference in January 1942, that's where the bureaucratic coordination of the final solution was hammered out.
And the implementation was horrific on multiple fronts.
You had the Einsatzgruppen, the mobile killing squads, following the army into the Soviet Union, murdering hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, in mass shootings.
And then the death camps. Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor.
Industrialized extermination centers, designed for systematic mass murder, primarily using gas chambers.
The numbers are just almost incomprehensible. An estimated 6 million Jews murdered.
Roughly 2/3 of the entire Jewish population of Europe.
And millions of others too. Romani people, Soviet POWs.
Poles, political opponents, disabled individuals, homosexuals. The regime targeted so many groups. The total number killed through this state-organized murder, or democide, is estimated at around 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war. Unprecedented.
As the war ground on and defeat became certain, what was happening to Hitler personally? In the bunker.
The sources paint a picture of physical and mental decline. His public image was always carefully curated, the ascetic, celibate leader devoted only to Germany.
But the reality was different.
Very different. He was heavily reliant on his personal physician, Theodor Morell, who administered a daily cocktail of drugs.
What kind of drugs?
A bizarre mix.
Yeah.
Stimulants like amphetamines, opiates, even cocaine derivatives at times. It's debated how much this affected his judgment, but it certainly wasn't healthy.
And physically, there were reports of tremors.
Yes, particularly in his left hand. Visible shaking in newsreels from late in the war. Many historians and doctors believe he likely had Parkinson's disease. His health was clearly failing along with his Reich.
So the final days in the Führer bunker under Berlin, the Red Army is closing in.
He's largely cut off from reality, surrounded by his shrinking inner circle, railing against his generals, blaming everyone but himself for the defeat.
And then the very last acts.
In a final, almost surreal gesture, he marries his longtime companion, Eva Braun, on April 29, 1945.
Just hours before the end.
Yes. On April 30th, with Soviet troops just blocks away, they committed suicide together in his bunker study.
He shot himself.
He shot himself. Eva Braun took cyanide. Following his specific instructions, aides took their bodies outside into the Chancellery Garden, doused them with petrol, and set them alight.
To prevent capture, even in death.
Exactly. He didn't want his body paraded as a trophy.
So looking back at this entire arc,
Yeah.
the rise, the absolute power, the destruction, What's the lasting significance?
It's almost impossible to overstate. Ian Kershaw's assessment really sticks. The embodiment of modern political evil. The scale of death and suffering he directly caused is staggering.
Just in Europe, the war he started killed around 28.7 million people, soldiers and civilians. And the civilian toll was unlike anything seen before in warfare.
Absolutely. It changed the world map, led to the Cold War, the creation of Israel, the UN. His actions had immense, far-reaching consequences.
Sebastian Haffner made that point, didn't he? That maybe only Alexander the Great caused such profound global changes in such a short time.
It's a provocative comparison, but it highlights the sheer impact. And maybe that's the final thought for you, the listener, to wrestle with. How could one individual, driven by such hateful ideas, manage to bend a modern nation to his will, dismantle all opposition, and unleash such unparalleled destruction?
Understanding how those mechanisms worked, how the legal structures failed, how propaganda and terror combined, that seems crucial.
It is, because understanding how it happened is perhaps the only way to recognize the warning signs, should they ever appear again. The fragility of democracy was something he exploited masterfully.